Hello. In our last video, we took a look at the different kinds of errors we might face, and we made a note that we're not going to take errors personally, that errors happen to everyone, and we're not going to attempt to fix anything until we understand what the error message means. And then we discovered that many error messages are almost entirely undecipherable to beginners, and we started making a list of what those error messages meant. We also learned we shouldn't guess how to fix our program, because if we guess right, we won't know why what we did fix the program, and if we guess wrong, we'll have introduced yet another error and we'll have dug ourselves into a deeper hole. So we never want to guess. We always want to make sure we understand the error. We also learned there were three kinds of errors: compile time errors, where we break a grammatical rule, and those are the ones we were exploring in the last video. But we also know that even if our program compiles, it might crash when we run it, and that's called a runtime error. Or it might run perfectly, in the sense that it doesn't crash, but it doesn't do what we want, and that's called a logical error. We looked at a few. We started looking at some compile time errors, some syntax errors that occurred when I tried to compile my program, and we made a list of some of the less intuitive error messages that Java uses and what they actually mean. So, for example, illegal start of expression usually means we forgot to close a brace at the end of a method. So I've made a list of some of these more common error messages you'll face as beginners. Let's continue trying to compile this program I wrote and fixing the remaining errors. So now it tells me I have 3 errors left. And remember, I really don't care how many errors are left, and I only ever look at the first error. Ban that so I can see it. And my first error right now says, cannot find symbol, turn around. So that's an important idea. Cannot find symbol, turn around. We're going to see that one a lot. Let's make a list of that one. In fact, I think I will switch colors so we can tell where the new ones that we're working with in this video began. Cannot find symbol. And this is important because when it can't find a symbol, it tells you what symbol it can't find and what location that symbol is in. So turn around is the name of the symbol, and comb is the place it's looking for it. And if I click on this error, it takes me right to that spot. So here you can see it's looking for something called turnaround, and it's looking for it in the comb file because we called comb.turnaround. There are many possibilities here. Maybe there is such a method called turnaround, but it's not in comb. Maybe it's in something else. For example, if we wrote robot.turnRight, and we hit compile, which is off your screen, then it tells me it can't find turn right in robot. Well, it's right. Turn right is not in robot, but there is a method called turn right. It just happens to be in my comb file. Let me get rid of that line since that just introduced a new error. Sorry, that being a logical error. Alright, comb.turnaround. What's wrong with that? Well, I have a method called turnaround, I believe. Right here. But you'll notice the A is capital in turnaround, and we hit compile to take me back to that part. Here I wrote turnaround with a lowercase a, and that's why it can't find turnaround with a lowercase a, because I meant an uppercase a. So Java is extremely particular, as many programming languages are. We'll hit compile again, and now it tells me cannot find symbol variable robo class comb. Well, that's an unfortunate error message because I don't even know what variable means, but obviously I've forgotten the T. I lost the T somehow in the word robot here. Let's try compiling again. What do we have now? Missing method body. This is one that happens to us a lot. Let's write this one down. Missing method body. That actually almost always means the same thing, which is that we have a semicolon in the method declaration, and we don't want one. So here we'll look at the method declaration. There's a semicolon sitting up here. We get used to writing semicolons. If we write it too often, we have this kind of error here. Move to next to this. The method body is missing. In fact, if we hit compile, you'll notice it gets upset on this line. The method body is missing because when it gets to the semicolon, it says, oh my god, I hit a semicolon. It didn't find the body of the method. Well, if we remove the semicolon, it will find that body. And now, compilation is completed. But don't celebrate too soon, because usually this is just the beginning. Working out those compile time errors is just the beginning. So let's go back to our kinds of errors. We have compile time or syntax errors, and we just faced a whole bunch of those and got through that. And now we need to look at runtime errors, where my program compiles but crashes. So let's see, it compiles. Does it crash? And I believe there is a method that I want to run called darken comb in this file, and it's supposed to take some region and darken it, as we saw in a previous video. Here's the robot darkening that comb, so I feel pretty good. And oh, what? That's not what oh no. Oh no. So if I look at this error message now, it tells me, so here's a runtime error. In fact, it even says it's a runtime exception, although it won't always. And it tells me what happened. I attempted to move my robot from whatever location it was in to, you can't see this, but it now says to an occupied, that's the word that's off your screen. It attempted to move that robot to an occupied location, and this occupied location here. Well, duh, it tried to move the robot into a wall, and we crashed. So now we can take a look at how do you fix how do you even understand a runtime error message? So we stopped, we read the error message, that's a good thing. In fact, the worst thing you can do when you hit an error is to then, delete that error message, recompile, resave, do something where that error message goes off your screen. We want to study it in detail. So, okay, we attempted to move the robot into a wall. We now understand what that meant. Now we need to decipher all of this here. So let's make sense of that. Your program begins at the bottom of the page here. We called a method called darken comb, and you can see here is that darken comb method. And Java's telling us here that on line 14 of comb.java, let's take a look at that. Line 14, we called move to next tooth. Move to next tooth. So here's move to next tooth being called, and on line 47 of move to next tooth, let's go to, that's Control G, I believe, line 47, there's line 47, and on that line it calls move and make dark. So not surprisingly, Java tells us it then went inside of move and make dark. So inside of darken comb, it went inside of move to next tooth, which went inside to move and make dark, and on line 64 of that, let's jump to line 64 with Control G again, which I believe shows in the edit menu. Go to line, Control G. Okay. I went to line 64 where I discover I called robot move, and sure enough that's where it says robot move, and apparently robot move is a problem there because it crashed into a wall. Now the real problem doesn't occur on line 64, it occurs inside of the robot file on line 103. But I'm not going to look inside the robot file at line 103 because we didn't write the robot file. Actually, I wrote the robot file, but we'll pretend I didn't. We didn't write the robot file, so we're going to assume it works. And we're going to assume that the error is not that move is broken, but that we called move when we shouldn't have. We violated a precondition, and indeed there's a precondition in move that says you can't move if there's a wall in front of you, and we violated that condition by moving the robot in such a way that it was facing a wall when we called move. Okay, so how do we fix that? Well, you might say, let's just remove this line. But this line is important. That's part of moving and making dark. So if we take a look, we have a precondition in move and make dark that says the front must be clear before we call this method. Well, if the front is not clear, as it is in tier, we'll crash into a wall. So the problem is not in move and make dark. So this is how we typically debug. And this is actually called debugging. We start at an error, by the way, being called a bug. So we have a bug in our program, we're trying to find it, and we started at the line where things went wrong, but we realized we didn't write the move method, so we'll work back to move and make dark, which we did write, but we realize we move and make dark is correct. The problem is that someone must have violated this precondition and called move and make dark when we shouldn't have. So we're going to back up now to where move and make dark was called, which is line 47. Let's go to line 47. Here's move and make dark being called inside this move to next tooth method. So let's see. We move and make dark, it's inside of move to next tooth. What's going on there? Should we be moving and make dark at the beginning of move to next tooth? Let's go see. Before, it's already dark. After, ooh, we didn't even write what this one was supposed to do. That's unfortunate. Maybe we should figure out what move to next tooth was supposed to do. I believe the answer was the cell the robot is on is already dark, and there's 2 light squares ahead. Afterward, robot has darkened those squares and moved forward 2 squares onto that second square. Alright, well this is important. Notice I just introduced 2 new lines of code. So the lines of code in my error message are now out of date. They're incorrect. In the next video, we'll take a look at I realize this is a very unsatisfactory ending. You're really probably dying to know what I did wrong that let this robot crash into the wall. Well, let this be a lesson to you. It's hard to figure out why your program is wrong. It takes some time. So we're going to move this search for our runtime error into the next video. I will see you there.